he came over, he said, yeah, I'm gonna do your introduction and, let people know you're gonna speak. And in my mind, I'm like, cool, it gives me like 20 minutes. He said like 3 words and threw me up here. Thanks. No, but I'm really grateful to be here. Because the reality is, statistics state, theoretical evidence dictates that I am to be high or dead right now. And the fact that I'm not is A, miraculous equaling miracle, and B, it defies logic. Because you'll hear in my story tonight that the disease of addiction does not discriminate. From Yale or jail, the White House or the outhouse, the results are all the same. And 1 out of 5 people will be affected. Today in the nation, 179 people die as a direct result of an opioid overdose. That's worse than the Vietnam War. That's worse than the peak of the AIDS outbreak. And the sad thing is that those 179 deaths today that will occur in the nation as a direct result of an opioid overdose are 100% preventable. They are 100% preventable. So when I stand up here before you and I say to you, hi, my name's Brandon, I'm an alcoholic, let me tell you what that means. That means that I'm defiant by nature, I hate authority, and I will not conform unless it becomes my idea. Therefore, you tell me what I need to do, I tell you why you need to fuck off. Because I think I know some things. And after all, in my story, you'll hear that my resume states that I actually do know some things. And I did some things in life that people achieve to success or happiness that some even dream of doing. So God willing, my agenda tonight, my modus operandi, if you will, is to stand before you, ladies and gentlemen, and present a message of attraction rather than promotion. So that when I'm done my story tonight, you guys can sit back and say, if that guy can get sober, there's no reason why I can't. Because again, if you're anything like me, you tell me what I need to do, I tell you to fuck off. Because for a lot of years I possessed this job, and this job put me in a lot of positions I didn't like to be in, a lot of feelings I didn't like to feel, and this job consisted of knowing everything. I knew it all. And come to find out, walking to God willing, my last treatment center, the 13th inpatient treatment center, had been to that same previous treatment center 4 previous times. But on this last occasion, walking in at 35 years old, I was a homeless heroin addict that wanted to kill himself, but I didn't want to hurt myself in the process. I was horrible at suicide because I kept waking up. And I was in a position in life where I was so low the curb like a skyscraper. And I walked into this 13th inpatient treatment center at the age of 35. In theory and on paper, did some things in life that people with great success had and some even dream of doing. In reality, I walked into this 13th treatment center at the age of 35. I had just woken up from being on life support for 7 days. People had taken life insurance policies out on me. My mother had bought me a plot. She had sold 3 homes to financially pay for me to go to 2 treatment centers. She had nothing left to give. She depleted several savings accounts, so one day she went across the street to her church, and Father Mike saw her sitting in the pew crying uncontrollably, and Father Mike said, Miss Pat, what's wrong? Miss Pat, my mother said, Father Mike, it's Brandon, it's never been worse. There is nothing left I can do to save my child. So I've simply resorted to going to God with a prayer. And Father Mike said, yeah, Miss Pat, what's that prayer? Miss Pat, my mother said, Father Mike, is very simple. The prayer consists of God, please cure him, please kill him, or please kill me because I can't take it anymore. And Father Mike, for the first time in his life, he looked at my mother and he screamed at her, how dare you go to God with a plan like that about your son? God has a plan for your son. You don't know what it is, I don't know what it is, and Brandon doesn't know what it is. Thank God I didn't know what it was because I would have fucked it up. So I walk into this 13th inpatient treatment center. My worldly possessions, everything that I own, consists of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant. It fits into a bag that doubles as my pillow. 4 cigarette butts that I picked up off the ground, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order. what I owned at 35. And I walk into this facility and the clothes are literally hanging off my back, no exaggeration, tied on with a shoestring. I'll get into this later, but I got robbed and they ripped the clothes off. I had no underwear on. I had no, my shirt was ripped open except the top button. I had these shoes with one shoestring on. And there was this 19-year-old tech working. And I had been to the same treatment center 4 previous times. And I walk in this day, May 25th, 2015. He said, "Mr. Novak, you're back." I said, "Aren't you a fucking genius?" Nothing gets past you, does it, boy? He said, "Mr. Novak, your clothes are not rehab oriented. You need some underwear, you need some sweatpants, you need some slides." And the fact of the matter was I never prayed for such simple articles of clothing in my life. But the reality is my disease does not allow me to own clean underwear. It does not allow me to own pants to change into. It tells me what to own, when to own, and how to own it. And I said, "I don't have any underwear, I don't have any sweatpants, I don't have any slides." He said, "Come downstairs to the basement to the donations room." I'm downstairs, I'm in the basement of the donations room, and something very imperative happened in the basement of that donations Catholic Charities rehab. I was met by the God of my understanding in the form of a gift of desperation. Because you'll hear in my story, the only way change will occur in my life is through the only way is form of pain. When the pain gets great enough, I will be willing to do what it takes to change. I don't change when things are unmanageable. I change when things are unbearable. And that moment of, that window of me, the moment of me to change is slim to none, and Slim's out of town a lot of time. So let me back up and let me tell you where I come from, what my deal is. I was born and raised in Baltimore City. I come from a rather extreme family, if you will. My mother got a job at the age of 15 drawing blood for $5 a pop at Mercy Hospital. As of 3 years ago, she recently retired as a nuclear physicist on the board of Mercy Hospital. Second longest employer in Mercy Hospital history. My brother, he wanted to be an attorney his whole life. By the time he passed the bar and graduated law school, he was literally blinded and student debt. He had no idea what his next move was going to be or how he was going to get himself out of the position he had found himself in. Today, currently, he resides as an attorney in the White House practicing pensions and benefits. My father died as a direct result of the reason why we're all here tonight. He liked to smoke crack cocaine, his body shut down. He taught me one thing in life, if and when I go to prison, how to conduct myself. I lived with that after-school special. I strongly disliked that man, and I hated drugs and alcohol because I saw what it made him do to me, to my mother, to my brother, to my sister. Therefore, I excelled at everything I did in my life because I was not going to become you people. I hated you people, and I hated drugs and alcohol. Right? So from a very young age, I witnessed the effect that drugs and alcohol have on people. I saw it firsthand. I lived with it. I endured it. At the age of 7, my mother got me my first skateboard. And that night when she put me to bed, she said, "Brandon, what do you want to do with the skateboard?" I said, "I want him in bed with me." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I die, I want it to come with me." It was like God had came down and handed me the Holy Grail in the form of a skateboard. As soon as that wood touched my hand, I knew I was going to be a professional skateboarder. Therefore, schooling was not important. A trait, plan B, an option did not matter. A skill that I possessed then that carried on to my drinking and drug careers that some of you people might be able to relate to, despite any and all adverse consequences that came my way. I did what I had to do to get what I wanted to get. So from the right age of 7 to the age of 16, I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it, I skateboarded 24/7. At the age of 15, I'm designing my pro model for Pau Peralta. I'm touring the world with Tony Hawk. I have a private tutor that goes with. At the age of 14, I'm the first skateboarder ever in the world to be endorsed by Gatorade. They fly me out to Chicago to the Quaker Oats building. They put me on one treadmill. They put Michael Jordan on another treadmill next to me. And they put wires in his noses and down our throats. And they give us each Gatorade to see the effects that it has on different sports players. So from a very young age, I'm doing things that people equate to success or happiness. Right? And Now you'll hear in my story, right, I keep my story very upfront, I keep it very graphic. As a matter of fact, I keep my past married to my present, if you will. Because I've seen me forget where I come from, and I will return. So I would come in and out of treatment centers, I would come in and out of meetings, and I was so scared to tell you how I felt, tell you the things that I did for another bag, bottle, or pill, tell you the things I saw, or the things that I endured, because what if you think I'm gay? What if you think I'm a punk? What if you think I'm a loser? And I would come in here and I would save my face, and I would literally lose my ass on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park for $40. Right? So finally the pain got great enough where I came in here and I worried about saving my ass, and somewhere along the line, saving my ass and my face correlated along the lines. So anything I share with you is my story, right? I wasn't the kind of alcoholic as a kid that when I walked into class 20 minutes late, I felt that everyone was staring at me. I was the kind of kid that walked into class 20 minutes late thinking that everyone was waiting for me, right? I had goals, I had dreams, I had ambitions. I had low self-esteem. Yes, I suffered some traumatic experiences from my father, but nothing that like would constitute me incapable of getting this thing, or being an alcoholic from a very young age. So when I had that first drink, it wasn't like I had arrived, right? It wasn't like, this is the solution, this is gonna do for me what nothing else can the rest of my life. As a matter of fact, skateboarding it did for me then what drugs and alcohol later did for me down the line. Right, because if you give me a skateboard, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest women, I felt like they were waiting for me and or wanted to marry me. Right, and then drugs and alcohol did that for me at a later age. So I'm on one of my first tours, and I'm with another pro skateboarder by the name of Mike Vallely, and we do this demo, and I get caught with a bunch of drugs on me, and he says, get rid of the drugs or get off the tour. I throw the drugs down the sewer, we finish the demo, I get back to the hotel, I meet a young woman, she drives me back to the demo, I go to the sewer, I fish the drugs out, long story short, I get caught and kicked off the tour. Now my delusional alcoholic mind, the one that lies to me my own voice, the one that makes me believe the unbelievable, tells me the skateboarding world needs me, it cannot go on without me, I am an asset. In reality, the skateboarding world does not need me, it goes on quite fine without me, and I'm a liability. Unfortunately, the last person to know that because I possess that job that consists of knowing everything. See, now flights aren't being booked, tours aren't being scheduled, video parts are not being produced, because I'm the kind of alcoholic that absolutely shies away from conversations that consist of the words honest, reliable, or dependable, because that does not help me get one more. And you'll hear in my story anything between me and that next bag, bottle, or pill must and will go, and it's not personal, it's just business for the game that I play called addiction. So now I'm home with my mother and my girlfriend and Tony Hawk, right? He calls me one day, he said, Brandon, we have one or two options we can do with you. And I said, what's that, Tony? He said, we can put you in a treatment, you can save your life, you can continue to be a professional skateboarder, or you can quit the team. From the age of 7 to 15, I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it, I became it. All of a sudden I'm presented with this ultimatum from like my higher power, which is Tony Hawk at the time, and I don't have a breath of fresh air in my lungs when I say I quit. Right? Because what I don't know then that I know now is that alcohol had its grips on me way before I even saw it coming. So now I'm home with my mother and my girlfriend, I'm living with them, and about 2 months into this stint, they come to me and they said, Brandon, we have a great idea for you. What's that? We want you to go to treatment. Now I think about it for a second, I said, that's a brilliant idea. A, I have the time. B, I'm going to report to said treatment center and I'll report back to those two why I'm not you fucking nut jobs, nor will I ever be. Overreaction at best. Caught me at a bad time on a bad way and a bad day. So I go into this first treatment center at the age of 17 with a closed mind and a closed heart, comparing out, I'm not buying what you're selling, I'm not drinking your Kool-Aid. It's a Wednesday night, 17 years old, they put me in my first treatment facility and they put me in this big empty cafeteria, and there's not a soul in this cafeteria, and there's this big interrogation light shining down on me. I'm ill as a research monkey. Out of nowhere, this older black gentleman walks up to me, he said, white boy, what are you doing here? I said, heroin. He said, how old are you? I said, 17. He said, do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this. As quick as he came, he left. He nor I had no idea the significance of that conversation was ever going to have in my life. Follow me here. I'm comparing out. Closed mind, closed heart. You know what I can tell you about that gentleman? I can tell you where the 4 teeth were placed in his mouth, because at the time I had all mine. He was black, I was white. He's 70, 75, I'm 17. He smokes crack, I successfully do heroin. He's homeless, I live with my mother and my girlfriend. God bless that man. I'm so happy he found the answer for which he's in search of. You know what I can't tell you about that facility? I can't tell you my therapist's name. I can't tell you about that relapse prevention packet they're shoving down my throat. Or the healthy or unhealthy values you're trying to instill in me, because that means if I can tell you one of those things, I can relate to being one of you people, and I want no part. So I leave that facility. No defense against the first drink or drug. And he was right, I didn't turn 18 in a place like that. But I turned 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, and 35 in a jail or a treatment center. And every year I sit on whatever bunk or whatever cell, whatever jail I happen to be in, or whatever bed or whatever treatment center I happen to be in, and think back to that older gentleman and say to myself, maybe if me, Brandon Novak, would have listened to him with an open mind and an open heart, I would not continuously find myself in this situation year after year after year, meaning that it was fully self-induced. I had not created or painted this picture for which I live in. So in between all those birthdays, I'm in and out of treatment centers. And what I would do is I would come in and I would loiter with the intent to recover, right? I would get a sponsor, I would get a home group, I fellowship really easy. But then they say, I need you to work those 12 steps. And I say, come on, for Christ's sakes, how many times are we going to overreact here? And then for the life of me, I can't understand why I'm back on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park praying to God that lawyer gets off work at 5 o'clock as opposed to 5:30 because he pays me good money for my body. How did I get that? I got that because I'm a closed mind and a closed heart, and I compare it out, and I possess that job that consists of knowing everything. Therefore, you tell me what I need to do, I tell you what I need to fuck off. That's how I got there. So from a very young age, my mother used to tell me, show me who you walk with, and I'll tell you who you are. And that transcended into social acceptability equaling personal recovery. So as long as the woman was pretty enough, the bank account was high enough, the car was new enough, the home was big enough, you told me those things, that meant that I must be doing well. But on the inside, I can't keep a needle on my arm, and I want to kill myself on a daily basis. So I got to build the outside up to make the inside correlate somehow, some way. So I trip and I fall into those movies, Jackass, and these TV shows called People of Bad. I'm touring the world, I'm doing things that people equate to success or happiness. These movies have now broke box office records several times over. I'm a millionaire 3 times over between the ages of 24, 25. Mother, a nuclear physicist, brother, attorney in the White House. First skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, hanging out with Michael Jordan. Touring the world with Tony Hawk, probably 2 that goes with. End up in these movies now that break box office records. A millionaire a few times over. On the flip side, I've been in 8 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother has bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. I've been medevac to 4 different hospitals in 4 different states for 4 different overdoses. You can look on the internet, there's nothing anonymous about my story. My mother was being interviewed, and the interviewee said something to my mother, interviewer said something to my mother, and she said, I used to pray to God not to get that phone call. I used to pray to God not to get that phone call in the middle of the night, to now finding myself praying to God to get that phone call, just to know that I know He's safe. So now, just like in that skateboarding world, in this Jackass world, my delusional alcoholic mind, the one that lies in my own voice, that makes me believe the unbelievable, tells me the Jackass world needs me and cannot go on without me. I am an asset. In the reality, the Jackass world did not need me. It goes on quite fine without me. I'm a liability. Unfortunately, the last person to know that because I possess that job that consists of knowing everything. Paychecks are now being diverted to my second ex-fiance. Flights are not being booked. Shoots are not being scheduled because they say if we book him the flight, we make the flight. Let's say we book him the flight, he makes the flight. What condition will he be in when he gets here? Let's say we book him the flight, he makes the flight. It's the same thing that's going to happen as it did last time if they kick the bathroom door down at Paramount Studios and find him down on the ground with a needle in his arm. Not a good look for the work world. But see, my disease tells me I'm sick and tired of going in and out of treatment centers because I see that it works for you people, but it cannot work for me. I'm so internally unique. You haven't seen what I've seen. You haven't experienced what I've experienced. You haven't felt what I've felt. You didn't watch your mother cut your father. You didn't watch your father cut your mother's throat at the age of 7. At the age of 8, your father didn't take you to the strip joint. When he was in the back conducting business, he didn't sit you at the bar stool and the pretty girls would pour shots of ginger ale and Coca-Cola. You would do the shots, the girls would applaud, and your father would give you that look of approval. Later on, when I ended up in those movies, Jackass, I would do appearances at nightclubs. And they'd say, Mr. Novak, what would you like on your rider in the green room? And I'd say some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. They would give me those substances. I would take pictures. I would sign autographs. At the end of the night, I would get a check for $10,000. Now, I keep going to these meetings. You people tell me that my life's unmanageable. I believe that my life's unmanageable. My bank account seems pretty manageable. Mind you, social acceptability equals personal recovery. But see, this is factual evidence what I'm about to share with you right now. This is not debatable. No reason to talk to me after I'm done speaking. If you're diagnosed as an addict or an alcoholic, that disease left untreated equals death. It's a fatal disease. But as far as I'm aware of, it's the only fatal disease from which I possess that tells me I don't have a disease on a daily basis. And it lies through my own voice. It makes me believe the unbelievable. Follow me here. Diagnose me with HIV. I'm rushing to the hospital to get medication. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me with cancer. I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me as an alcoholic or an addict. I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out what the fuck's wrong with you for diagnosing me with said disease. It's just as fatal as the first 2 diseases, but left to my own devices, I'll believe I don't have a disease, and I'll get off the stage, and I'll go buy a whole bunch of tar. And the scary thing is it will make complete sense to me. And what left to my own devices looks like is Brandon only attends Brandon's Anonymous. Brandon only sponsors Brandon. And Brandon is only Brandon's God. And now for the life of me, how am I back in that abandoned house Christmas Eve? It's snowing outside, I don't have a long sleeve shirt on, all I have is a t-shirt on, I gotta put my arms into my shirt, my knees into my shirt, my head into my shirt, I gotta, because that's the only way I can produce heat. How am I here? But I'm not going back to another treatment center because it cannot work for me. I am that constitutionally incapable that you people talk about. So I come up with a foolproof plan to how I'm going to beat my disease of addiction. And this is absolutely going to work. Strap me up to a polygraph. I will pass with flying colors. I will have every police officer in the world pat me on the back saying, boy, we wish everyone was as honest as you. If that were the case, the world would be a friendlier place. If I'm lying, may my mother die where she stands. That's how much I believe what I'm about to do. I'm going to move to Helsinki, Finland. You laugh, but see, to me at the time, the abnormal has become the normal. I'm living on that animalistic level, and that idea makes complete sense to me. I'm going to move to Helsinki, Finland. It's literally across the world. They don't speak my language there. I can go there, I can regroup, I can rebrand, I can reassess, I can reevaluate, I can redo life. And it's going to work because I don't like the results that it's given me in Baltimore, Maryland, or Westchester, Pennsylvania. So I jump on a plane, mind you, show me who you walk with, I'll tell you who you are. Social acceptability equals personal recovery. Really all I'm trying to do is fill this internal void with the external solution. There's a pattern there, and that goes with me throughout my life. So I jump on a plane, I go to Helsinki, I get off the plane, I go to this very nice 5-star hotel, and I go right to the lobby bar. There's all these businessmen, these expensive suits having meetings in different languages. And I go right to the pub and I order a glass of wine followed by a glass of wine followed by a bottle. I meet a gentleman at the bar, gives me a phone number, and now I'm having bags and bags delivered to me. How did this happen? I just bet my life, I bet my mother's life on it. It was not going to be this way. I meant it with every fiber of my being. And I go in the bathroom, I'm doing what I do best, and I call one of you fucking nut jobs. My sponsor. And I said, Lex, how did this happen this way? This was not supposed to be this way. He said, if you have a second, I'd like to share with you something, but I know you have a very busy itinerary, and I don't want to get in the way of your busy schedule, Brandon. What, Lex? He said, I guess you skimmed over the part where we talked about geographical change is not equal recovery. You can't shake your shadow. I put you in Finland, you do heroin. I put you in California, you do heroin. It rains, you do heroin. It snows, you do heroin. They talk about triggers. My triggers are when my eyelids open. I can justify writing time, place, feeling, or sensation makes sense to have a drink over. He said, if you have another second, I'd like to share with you something else, but again, I know you're very busy and I don't want to get in the middle of your schedule. What, Lex? He said, the drinking and the drugging is not your problem. It's not my problem. I've given it everything. I've given it homes, I've given it women, I've given it careers, I've given it family, I've given it my sexuality. It asks, I give. Because I have that disease that when it calls, I answer by any and all means necessary. I'm not blessed enough to have the kind of disease where I can say, you know what, that does not sound like a good idea. I'm going to sit this one out. That's not the disease from which I possess. He said, the drug and the drug is not your problem. It's your solution. It's your answer. You take your solution away. I want you to take that thing out of your arm. I want you to look in the mirror. I want you to tell me what you see. Better yet, don't say a fucking word. I'm going to tell you what you see. You're looking directly in the eyes of your problem. You are your problem. The drugs and the alcohol are your solution. Take your solution away. How do you feel now? That was not the kind of phone call I wanted to have. So I jump on a plane. I come back. Now I gotta build the outside up so God willing the inside will correlate. Right? I gotta save my face so God willing my ass will follow. Social acceptability equals personal recovery. Filling this internal void with external solution. So I decide I'm gonna write a book. Now I have no high school diploma. I have no GED. I was not asked kindly to leave the 10th grade due to drugs and alcohol, go figure. But I decided I'm going to write a book. I'm the kind of person, if I believe it, I can see it. Keep in mind, I get my GED in prison after my first book is published. Keep that in mind. And the only reason why I took my GED in the joint was because A, I had the time, and B, if you passed your GED in the joint, you got a pizza party that was supplied by Domino's. The importance of what I just shared with you is this. I aced that GED like a Harvard graduate. I did not miss one question. And it's very simple looking back then to see why I did so well. It's because it was my idea. The reason why I did so bad in so many years, and so many 12-step meetings, so many psychiatrists, so many doctors, so many treatment centers, is because it was not my idea. If it was my idea, I would have excelled at a rapid pace and been a billboard for any treatment center in the world. But I decided I'm going to write a book. The book gets published. I'm now a published author. Take a step further, I'm a published author who has written an autobiography addiction memoir. I'm a published author who has written an addiction memoir. The book becomes a New York Times top 10 seller. I'm now receiving hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail from all over the world of people like you saying, I read your book, I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours, I have 30 days. Of people like you saying, I read your book, I understand why my wife picks the bottle over coming to have dinner with me on the weekends. It's not that I was a bad husband, it's that she suffers with the disease of addiction. My delusional alcoholic mind told me I just wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now what I haven't shared with you is that I wrote that book while sniffing a lot of cocaine and drinking red wine like it was water. Let's see. Mother's a nuclear physicist, brother's an attorney in the White House, first skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, hanging out with Michael Jordan, touring the world with Tony Hawk, having a private tutor that goes with. Ended up in these movies that break box office records, millionaire 3 times over between the ages of 26, 27. Now the New York Times top 10 selling author who's written a book on addiction. On the flip side of that coin, I've been in 11 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. Medevaced 4 different hospitals, 4 different states, 4 different overdoses. My mother has bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. I'm about to end up on life support for 7 days. My mother's resorted to praying for my death. So I write this book. The book is published, right? Things are going to get better. Social acceptability was personal recovery. The night my book's being released in Times Square in New York City, at a Barnes & Noble, I have a book signing event. My literary agent's there, my manager's there, my publishers are there. Very well-to-do people in the scholarly world are there. I'm there that day, but I don't feel good. And my people won't give me any money to get me all right that day, because what I didn't understand then that I understand now is it would not be a good look sitting at a Barnes & Noble doing an autograph signing on an addiction memoir as I nod out. But again, the abnormal has become the norm. I'm living on the animalistic level, and it makes sense to me that I need to get heroin to sign these books. So I'm sitting in this Barnes & Noble, and I have a friend with me from Baltimore. He doesn't feel good either. And all of a sudden, they wheel my books in on this dolly in these boxes, and me and my buddy from Baltimore, we don't say one word to each other, but we have a complete conversation, that language of the heart untreated, if you will. All of a sudden, he stands up, I stand up in uniform precision, we go over, I grab 2 boxes of my books, he grabs 2 boxes of my books, we run out of the Barnes & Noble, straight to Penn Station. I get the very next train from New York back to Baltimore. I take the books to 2 different stores, I autograph and sell 4 boxes of books to 2 different stores. I've now just stole my own autobiography, addiction memoirs, from my own book release party in New York City to take back to Baltimore City to sell to buy more heroin. How the fuck did I get here? I had goals, I had dreams, I had ambitions. In 5th grade, I did not put my hand up and say, you know what, teacher, you know what sounds like a very promising career path is to become a homeless heroin addict. That was not what I wanted. So I do what I do, I sell the books, do what I'm doing in Baltimore, I finish that, I get on a train, I come back to Philly, I go back to my now 2nd ex-fiance and our home, and a common theme of my story is that locks stop working. And I go to put my key in the lock doesn't work, so I do the next best thing and I kick the door in. The home is completely empty. She had taken my paintings, her paintings, our cats, our furniture, her clothes, my clothes, you name it, it's gone. All of a sudden, I find myself in a fetal position in this big, empty shell of a house, crying uncontrollably. And when I came to the realization I was this big, empty shell of a house, a spitting image of what I have become. This big, empty shell of a man crying uncontrollably. And the only thing I can think of is that older black gentleman from the very first treatment center at the age of 17 that said, do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this. He had planted the seed in my head long before I even had any idea what was coming. Yet again, if I would have listened to him with an open mind and open heart, I would not continue to find myself in this situation yet again. And at that time, my phone went off, and it's my mother. My mother still resides in Baltimore City. And I don't know if anybody in this room remembers around 4 years ago when the police killed that young black man, Freddie Gray. My mother resides around 12 blocks from where that incident occurred. And at the time, Baltimore City was like the movie The Purge. They were robbing, they were looting, they were shooting, they were stealing, they were burning blocks down. The National Guard was in town on every corner with machine guns and tanks, and there was a 9 o'clock curfew. No one was to be on the streets. My mother called me and she said, Brandon, I'm terrified. Can you come make sure I'm safe? My intentions were to make sure that woman was as humanly safe as possible. You think my addiction gives a shit about what my intentions are? Let me show you what my addiction allows me to do. I get on a train, I get back, I come right to her house, I run up into her bedroom, I physically put her out of her bedroom. I take her bedroom over, I leave that room once a day. My mother is now taken to sleeping on the sofa in her living room because she's in fear that I'm going to burn her house down. And her next best thought is if I catch her house on fire and she's living in the living room, she could probably make it out alive. I leave that bedroom once a day at 4:30 a.m., my eyes open religiously. I don't have an alarm clock, I don't set a watch. My disease says get up. I don't wake up at 4:29, not 4:32. 4:30 a.m., my eyes open religiously. I gently open the door. I sneak down the stairs. I know exactly what step to step on, because God forbid I step on the wrong step and it makes a noise and she wakes up and says, can you make me something to eat? I fucking can. This is not personal, it's business. I get to the bottom of those stairs, I get on all 4 and I army crawl over to her bed, aka the living room couch. This hand grabs her purse, this hand grabs the belt that's attached to her purse. I gently slide the purse to me. God forbid that belt makes a noise and she asks what I'm doing, don't ask. I get the money, I go. And prior to this, it was okay because every time I would put a needle on my arm, that delusional effect was always produced. That delusional effect was always produced, which would allow me to escape the reality that I had now created for myself. Therefore, ignorance was bliss. I was okay with being homeless. I was okay with selling my body. I was okay with the abnormal becoming the normal. But now I'm going out, I'm getting what I gotta get. I get back to my mother's house, and when I go to load that thing up, that delusional effect is no longer produced. Meaning that I can no longer escape the reality that I have created for myself. So that moment of clarity is taking place when I'm high and when I'm sober. What do you do then? I've given everything to this one thing, and it was okay because it always answered, but now it no longer answers. I'm a 35-year-old heroin addict that lives in his mother's bedroom. I leave that room once a day. My worldly possessions consist of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant. Fits into a bag that doubles as a pillow. And it's no longer working. I told you I'm now the alcoholic that wants to kill himself on a daily basis, but I don't want to hurt myself in the process. I'm horrible with suicide because I keep waking up. What do I do? One day I go get what I'm getting, I get back to my house, and my brother, he came down from D.C., that hotshot attorney brother, and when he drove down, he physically made my mother walk up those stairs so she could see what I was actually doing up in that bedroom of hers. She would not walk up those stairs because ignorance was bliss for her, and she loved me. She didn't want to accept the reality for what it really was. My brother forced her up into that room, and that room looked like a murder scene. There's blood on the ceilings, there's blood on the walls, needles, cookers, bags, you name it, it's there. So she comes to the door, I go to put my key in the lock, it doesn't work, so I love my mother, so how dare I would never kick her door in, so I gently knock. See that? Abnormal to normal. And she comes to the door, my brother, and she's crying profusely, and she looks at me and she says, Brandon, you can no longer live here. I can no longer love you to death. You have to go. With that, a police officer comes around the corner, he serves me with a restraining order. I'm a 35-year-old homeless heroin addict. Mother's a nuclear physicist, brother's attorney in the White House, first skateboard endorsed by Gatorade, hanging out with Michael Jordan, touring the world with Tony Hawk, private tutor who goes with in movies that break box office records, millionaire a few times over, New York Times top 10 selling author who's written a book on addiction. The reality of what my life really looks like is this. I've just woken up from being on life support for 7 days. I've been in 11 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother's bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. My mother's went to God and said, please kill him. I can't take this anymore. My worldly possessions consist of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant, fits into a bag that doubles as a pillow, 4 cigarette butts that just picked up off the ground, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order that a police officer just served me. I'm walking up the street, and I go to an abandoned house in Baltimore. I'm doing what I'm doing, and my phone goes off, and it's a woman through social media. She said, I read your book, it saved my life, and I could care less because I don't want mine right now. She said, what do you say about an all-exclusive pay trip to Fort Lauderdale? I said, that's great. I need some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. She said, no problem. That's red flag number 1. My book saved her life, but she's going to give me substances that kill mine. Who cares? I do a little bit more research. I realize she lives in a hotel. That's not a good look either. I realize she's a lady of the night or a dancer, which I have no problem with because I've seen you become both of those things for $10. She has 2 requirements I must fulfill when I touch down in Fort Lauderdale. Mind you, she's paying for airfare, she's paying for food, room, boarding. Most importantly, the only thing that matters, she's paying for drugs. She has 2 requirements I must fulfill when I touch down in Fort Lauderdale. When I get there, she wants to party, she wants to make love, for lack of better words. I don't know about anybody in this room, but I do heroin, I do neither, I sleep. So I know I'm going to wear my welcome out really quick, and I don't want to learn the hustles in Fort Lauderdale. It's hot, it's sandy, I don't want to do that. But I don't have the option to not do that because my disease says get on this plane. I'm in an abandoned house. What I forget to tell you is I'm due to see my parole officer tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm in Baltimore City, I'm in an abandoned house, I have a needle hanging out of my arm. I'm about to board a flight to Fort Lauderdale, and if I piss into a cup, I'll light it like a Christmas tree. I was supposed to be in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and I was supposed to leave the state of Pennsylvania. I was supposed to be clean and sober. I was supposed to be in her office at 8:30 a.m. and I was supposed to produce a clean urine. My delusional alcoholic mind, the one that lies to my own voice that makes me believe the unbelievable, tells me, don't worry, get dressed accordingly, hurry up and make this flight, get what you have to get in Fort Lauderdale, and you'll be back in plenty of time to see your parole officer in the morning and produce a clean urine. I believe it so much so that I get dressed accordingly because like this is gonna happen. So I put these at one point in time nice dress slacks on minus the cigarette holes. I put this button-up shirt on. I don't wear underwear because I'm like a homeless heroin addict that doesn't have time to stop and wash out drawers and find imaginary dressers in alleys in Baltimore. My life is now consumed by the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. That's what I do. And I put these at one point in time nice Brooks Brothers shoes, but I had lost a shoestring along the way. So before I get on this red-eye flight to Fort Lauderdale, I stop in the East Baltimore to get a few more things because I can't be sick for the flight. When I go in to get the things, the boys see fit to rob me as opposed to serve me. When they rob me, they rip my front and my back pockets completely out. Now my front and my back are completely exposed. They rip my shirt open. The only button that stays buttoned is this very top button. I got these shoes on one shoestring. I'm now roaming the streets of East Baltimore like a gay East LA cholo gangbanger kind of fellow. That didn't work out as planned, so I get to the airport and I get up in line. Two things I've learned in my career: I will never win an argument with a judge or a TSA airport security agent. What they say goes. And on this evening, I get up the line, and I don't want to go to Fort Lauderdale. My heart's beating a million miles an hour like I just shot 10 kilos of cocaine. I don't want to go, but I don't have the privilege to not go. And when I get up the line, the woman takes one look at me. She says, "Mr. Novak, are you under the influence of anything?" I say, "Absolutely not." She says, "I believe you are. You will not fly for 72 hours. Not like the next flight or tomorrow morning, 3 days." Something very imperative happened that moment at the BWI airport that night. God dressed up in the form of a TSA airport security agent and did for me what I could not do for myself. And I get out of line and I call the same sponsor I called from Finland. I said, "Lex, I'm stranded at the airport and I want to kill myself." He said, "No, you're going to get on a train, you're going to come back to Philadelphia. You people are going to leave your cookouts Memorial Day 2015. You're going to leave your family, you're going to leave your loved one, you're going to leave your kids, and you're going to come pick me up from the train station. The guy that is deemed unhelpable or unfixable. You're going to pick me up, you're going to let me stay at your house, you're going to take me to see my pro officer in the morning. Those incidents occur, I see my pro officer, she gives me one more chance. She sends me back to the same facility I had been to 4 previous times. I get back to that facility, I sit in the same chair with the same intake coordinator, and the 4 previous times it always went like this. "Okay, Mr. Novak, your insurance covers 90 days. And I'd say, in theory, 90 days sounds great, but in reality, I'm more like a 45-day kind of fellow. This woman to see this job, to fulfill this state to go to. And each time she'd laugh at me and say, "Sweetheart, you have no idea. Anything and everything that you put in front of your recovery does not or will not matter because you will lose it." And I said, "Clearly you haven't seen my resume." This time, finally, thank God, I've been demoralized in just such a fashion from drugs and alcohol. I've been beaten to a state of reasonableness. I sit in the same chair with the same intake coordinator. And this day when she gives me that offer, I can't even come back with a counteroffer because if I say no, that entails an explanation. I've literally been beaten speechless by my disease of addiction, and thank God for that. She says, "Get up to detox. I'll see you in 4 days." I get up to detox. The kid takes me downstairs. And as he ruffles through the boxes of donations, looking for a pair of 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th hand used underwear, and as I pray to God, he finds them. He doesn't find any used underwear, but what he finds is a pair of size 40 women's sweatpants with no drawstring, woman's tank top, and a pair of size 13 Jesus sandals. I don't know how alert or attentive anybody in this room is, but I'm not a woman and I don't wear a size 13. Something very imperative happened in the basement of that Catholic Charities rehab that I had been to 5 previous times. I met the God of my understanding in the form of a gift of desperation. The only chance of change in my life comes through the form of pain. Finally, the pain's great enough that I've never been so excited to take these women's clothing, get a shower, and get that Baltimore City smell off me. I put these women's clothing on now. The willingness I've experienced a sense of willingness unlike anything I've ever known existed. I successfully complete that 90-day treatment center. In that 90-day treatment center, what I had learned is that my mentality will create the reality for which I live in. And if I change my perception, I can change my world. And that my defects can become my assets with the shift of perception. From that 90-day treatment center, I go to a sober living house for 1.5 years. I had been on parole and probation from 16 years old to 35. 16 months into my process of sobriety, I signed my release papers. I'm literally a free man that can go anywhere, anytime with anybody I like. I decided I wanted to get my 2-year medallion abroad. I flew out to Paris to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and got my coin. I no longer live in that self-induced prison that consists of a 4-block radius that cost me $10 to get out of on a daily basis. That book that I told you about, I had a 3-book deal when they caught me stealing my own books to take to sell to buy more heroin. They ripped that book up on that contract up on demand. 10 months ago, I had my second book come out. I have 3 more books to follow. 2 months ago, I had the first ever addiction graphic novel ever to come out. I have a documentary going to the Sundance and the Keynote Film Festival. This is not me standing before you bragging or boasting. This is me simply saying, if you want what I have, do what I do, and you can get what I got. There is a solution from the disease from which we suffer from. That mother, the mother that bought me a plot, that mother that took a restraining order out on me, that mother that went to God and said, please cure him, kill him, or kill me, I can't take it anymore. That very same mother called me 9 months into my sobriety. She said, Brandon, I hate when you come to visit. I said, why? She said, because I get so sad when you leave. That very same mother, I took to Florida 3 months ago to see her idol, Rod Stewart. I pulled some strings and got her backstage to meet that man. I took that mother on a cruise. My mother and I were supposed to be in Poland right now, but she fell and she broke her arm, which is why I'm here with you people tonight. What I learned is that my history does not have to dictate my future, and the disease of addiction is not a death sentence. As long as we're breathing, it's never too late. Sobriety has truly given me everything that drugs and alcohol ever promised me. I'm going to close with this story. There's a father that works alone, and he's swamped in paperwork, and his kid keeps banging on me, Dad, take another plate, take another plate. And the father's swamped in work, and he's trying to think of a way to buy 1 or 2 days to finish all his work. And he looks in his office on his desk, and he sees a big puzzle of a picture of a map. And the father thinks to himself, I got it. He just completely dismantles the picture of the puzzle of the world map, and he throws it on the floor. He said, son, when you put the picture of the puzzle of the world map back together, I'll take you out to play. And the father leaves that office, surely thinking he bought 1 or 2 days. 20 minutes later, the son comes back and he bangs it down on me. Dad, I did it. Dad's thinking to himself, impossible. He walks back into that office as sure as the day is long. The picture of the puzzle of the world map's put back together. He said, son, how'd you do it? The son said, Dad, it was simple. On the back of the picture of the puzzle of the world map was a picture of a man. I put the man back together, the world fell back in place. Together we stand, divided I die. My name is Brandon. Thank you for listening.
Wow. Wasn't that awesome? Thank you, Brandon Novak. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick restroom break, dessert break. Please come right back to the tables because we want to get to Adam Grabowski as soon as possible. Thank you very much. While you're up and about, please remember we have the silent